Hey guys, it's Shanna. I have Cam, who is one of my amazing friends in med school. Both of us are at UBC Med, going from second to third year. After fourth year, what happened?
Right. So after fourth year, what I did was I applied for I did the MCAT and applied for med school. The first time I applied, I didn't actually get in. I think I applied first in fourth year. I didn't get an opportunity to get in, so I took that chance to follow a big passion of mine, which is research. And at that point, I think that was one of the most difficult decisions in my life I had to make because I applied for a master's program, which I got. But at the same time, I didn't know if I should have done a master's program because it is a long program. I don't know if I'll get as much out of it. So ended up not doing the master's program, and I worked at this company for drug discovery.
Mm.
And I think that was probably the best decision I made. Um, I was able to do a lot of research that I was interested in that followed the company, and I learned how to develop that company, which is like the the biological and research side of it, not the business side. That's not my forte. Um, but I learned how to do that, and that was fantastic. I got opportunity to make a lot of like posters and stuff,
Mm.
which was great, and it helps your CV all the time. Um, so I think it also made me very prepared as a scholar
Mm.
to go into medicine. Uh, when you start medicine, you learn a lot about what kind of research papers are good, what kind of literature you should read, how to perform literature search, how to like appraise papers. These are all the skills I learned when I was doing my research. So it was very easy to find research for its various topics, and then you become a better physician for it, actually, just knowing how to browse literature.
Mm.
So I think that was great, and I got a good opportunity to make some connections and go to conferences. Um, don't think I would have had that as a master's student, but again, I have also a lot of friends who did master's programs, and they were very happy that they did a master's program. So both are good options, I guess. I don't think one is necessarily better than the option. It's just at the time, the opportunity presented to me was better for research than just a master's.
Can you like walk me a little bit through like when you were deciding between doing a master's and going into industry for that year? Like what were the pros and cons and some of the decision making?
Yeah, absolutely. So the good thing about a master's program is that it's structured, and you learn a lot of interesting techniques. You take classes on various fields. But the master's program I was doing was clinical pharmacology, which was just a follow up on my pharmacology experience. And the good thing about that program was that it would introduce you to different industries, and then you got to work with different biotech companies and drug discovery companies and pharmaceutical companies. Um, that was the good part about it. And the biggest takeaway is that you get a new degree, which is a master's degree, and that's a big plus for anyone. Um, the cons of it is that it takes 2 years. The research you do is very um, set in stone, so you have to basically follow what the PI's research is, and there's the element of stress to it that you have to finish on time. And the issue is that if I were to do a master's program, I would have to wait another year for med school. But as I said, that was not really the biggest takeaway. Then the biggest takeaway for me was that can I get as much out of this as with working for a pharmaceutical company? Because the end of that program was to get you some sort of a pharmaceutical company job or internship. But I already had that opportunity in front of me, so I thought I don't really see the point of going through the courses that I can just read on or learn as I go. Um, Also, the program was in University of Toronto, which I didn't want to go into. It was a whole move there for 2 years. It was big. Um, the pro about doing research at a pharmaceutical company is that again the company was newly being developed, so I had a great chance to see how a biological component of the company is made. I had to develop all these like SOPs, and I developed new techniques and do a lot of work. Basically had an opportunity to become an expert in the field, which was fantastic. The con of it was that you really it's hard to say what the course of a company is. You know, it's very some of it is business driven, and then some of it is like the shareholders may not be on board with what you want to do, so you have to continuously convince them. And then there was a lot of like operating procedures, which times like the work you do can't be published because it's like intellectual property. So that was a con for it. No, it was a risky thing to do because I didn't know what the future of that company was going to be like.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought it was a good opportunity to learn a lot about a field that I never got a chance to do. And this was real life. So this is how it would go in real life. So I thought it was a better, more realistic experience.
Is there anything that when Cam, of just before you started working at the company, anything you wish you had known?
I would want to know how much reading was actually involved. The number of papers and articles I read was insane. But I mean, I should probably have expected that. Like, if you're doing this kind of work, then you should be reading nonstop. But it was that. I also wish I knew how fun it'd be to do company research, because that would definitely sway me more.
What does a day in your life at working at the company, what did it look like?
I developed a project plan. So I had a plan to perform this work. And the work I did, there were long experiments, so they would take like a week maybe to do it.
Mm.
So I would go on, I set up for my experiment, perform my experiment. And then after I finished the experiment, I would analyze the data, write a report, and then I present all my findings to the board or like the team.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get feedback from the team. And then I would go talk to the chemistry, see what they have that's new. And then I would talk to fellow colleagues to see what the next step would be. And then I would figure out like basically the next step the company should take and present that as a proposal, and based on the readings I do, based on the results we have. And yeah, and then we move forward, design a new experiment, do the research for it. The interesting part was that I had to learn about new pharmacological techniques and analysis, like statistics analysis, that I never knew existed.
Mm-hmm.
I was fortunate because I had a really good PI who would literally sit me down and give me like 2-hour lectures on why like you should not use SEM, or should use standard deviation, or like 95% confidence interval instead, which was, it was not good, but it stuck with me. So some good skills. Yeah, that's the life of a company. And the good thing is that I was open to think about different literature, different fields, different avenues to take, which I think is not a freedom you get often with any kind of like master's program or PhD programs. And rarely actually companies provided this. So it was a very unique opportunity to spread my wings.
It sounds like you had a ton of like independence and agency over your project. It's kind of, you came up with the plan, you carried it out, you just, and then you also spent a lot of time collaborating with people, but then ultimately you still had agency to decide where you wanted to go next and how you wanted to take it.
Right. And the nice part about that is that I had a team with me, right? And I would like spend like doing meetings with my team, figuring out what to do next, which was like brainstorming sessions on. And I had experts as well, like expert PIs who was in the company, and always had time to go ask for help. I'm like, I think I should do this next. Like, what do you think? And they gave me like their wisdom. But yeah, the freedom was rare. It was good that I had that I had the option to think of what kind of research to do, what kind of avenues to take. it was a bit. It wasn't totally free that I could just like switch to a different field altogether, but it was enough that I could like design my own experiments, which was fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, I was just curious, like, say, like, if someone who's graduating is interested in finding a job like that, how did you go about finding kind of accompanying work?
Right. So the way I got my job is it's kind of lucky, to be honest, because I had one of the PIs who was in the faculty developed a company, and then I seeked them out to do research with them. That was good. But I think a lot of times you have to figure out, you have to basically apply to a lot of companies that you know. A lot of pharmaceutical companies out there are looking for positions, and the best way is to basically just spread as much as possible, apply to whatever. I think co-op is a fantastic program. If you all have a chance to do co-op, you should do co-op. I didn't do co-op, which I think I kind of regretted not doing co-op. Because it has lots of benefits. The first benefit is that if you're going to apply for medical school, you get an extra year basically to build up your CV and apply for med school. If you don't want to do medicine, then you get all of these new connections with companies, and that's fantastic because not only do you get an idea what kind of companies there's out there, but you also, when you land a co-op position, usually what happens if you do very well, they'll actually hire you after, and they might even pay for a master's or PhD. So co-op is.
If I were a high school student trying to think about what undergrad to go to, I would think about, do they have a strong co-op? Do they have a lot of good industry connections? Does the faculty, like you said, do they have a lot of good projects? Either if that's academic research, if that's your route, or do they have some industry connections to hook you up with? What kind of research did you do during undergrad?
Right. During undergrad, I did some basic research. So I did like a lot of chemistry labs, but nothing was really official. Didn't do any NSERC or like SSRP or CHIR, no grants basically. Which again, I suggest people apply for grants as much as possible. I didn't do that, which was a mistake. Did a lot of volunteer work in chemistry labs. Then briefly, I worked at an engineering lab. It was a biomedical engineering lab, but I think the level of work they did was too advanced for me at that time. So I knew that. So I stepped back. And then I started off my research in I briefly did like a research for this ion channel company, which I didn't like because it was basically labor. Then I found out my new company in third year, end of third year, I think, summer of third year to fourth year, and then I stuck with that, and then I was able to do it. Which reminds me, I think if you find a good lab you like, you should stick with it because the chances of you achieving like a paper or a poster goes higher, and then you get more responsibilities, and then you become an expert in the field, which is good.
Yeah, and I think I suggest that I agree with that idea of like instead of flickering around and like going all over the place, I think everyone take that with a grain of salt. If your lab is not suiting you, then yes, I would move on until you find something that you like. But if you do find it, like stick with it. And then I think because undergrad, whatever research you do, it's very unlikely that it's going to be the one you're going to do for the rest of your life. So it doesn't really matter like the content. I think it's more of learning how to do research. So the Cam was talking about like how do you propose a plan, how do you carry it out, how do you write and like develop those skills. And
find a good research project or research lab and stick with it. They become your family, and then you learn a lot about how the academia work goes.
Thanks so much for your time, Cam.
Of course.
So I guess if you had any questions that came up because of Cam, leave them in the comments below to redirect them to Cam, and then hopefully like, subscribe. And then this was Cam, and this is Shanna. So thanks, guys.
Thank you.